New York Yankees fans woke up with a lot to talk about as the team continues shaping its roster with opening day getting closer and closer. Every decision made at this stage carries weight, especially when it involves some of the most exciting young talents in the organization. And the latest development coming out of spring training is one that many people expected, but it still hits a little differently when it finally becomes official. The Yankees have made a significant roster move involving two of their most talked-about prospects. Outfielder Spencer Jones and right-handed pitcher Elmer Rodriguez have both been optioned to triple with the Scranton Wilkes-Barre Rail Riders and reassigned to minor league camp. It is never easy to see promising players step away from the major league environment, especially when fans have been following their progress so closely during the spring. But at the same time, the context around this decision makes it much easier to understand why the organization chose this path. Spring training always creates excitement around young players who are trying to force their way onto the big league roster. Every big hit, every strikeout on the mound, every moment of brilliance fuels the hope that a prospect might skip a few steps and break through earlier than expected. Spencer Jones was one of the players who generated that kind of buzz this spring, and honestly, it is easy to understand why. Standing at 6 feet and 7 inches tall, the outfielder has an imposing presence at the plate and in the field. When he stepped into the batter's box during spring games, fans immediately paid attention. In a relatively small sample of 22 plate appearances, Jones delivered numbers that grabbed headlines. He posted a batting average of .333, reached base at a rate of .455, and produced an eye-catching slugging percentage of .889. On top of that, he launched 3 home runs, showing exactly why scouts have been so intrigued by his power potential. Those numbers naturally led to excitement around the possibility of him pushing for a spot on the roster sooner than expected. However, the Yankees are currently dealing with a situation that most teams would actually love to have. The outfield depth at the major league level is incredibly strong. When you look at the names already expected to patrol the grass in the Bronx, it becomes clear why the organization believes patience is the smarter move. With established stars occupying those positions, the opportunity for consistent playing time simply is not there right now for a young player like Jones. Development at this stage of a prospect's career is all about repetitions and experience. Sitting on the bench in the major leagues might sound glamorous, but it can actually slow down a player's growth if he is not getting regular at-bats in game situations. That is exactly why the Yankees prefer to send him to AAA, where he can continue refining his approach, face advanced pitching on a daily basis, and prepare himself for the moment when the team truly needs him. And if you look deeper into his spring performance, there are still areas that the coaching staff wants to see improve before he makes the jump to the highest level. Even during his strong offensive stretch, Jones struck out 6 times while drawing 4 walks. That kind of strikeout rate is not unusual for a young power hitter, but it is the type of detail organizations pay close attention to when evaluating readiness for the major leagues. AAA will give him the perfect environment to keep working on pitch recognition, contact consistency, and overall play discipline. Within the Yankees farm system rankings, Jones currently sits as the 6th best prospect in the organization. That position actually represents a small drop from his ranking at the end of last season, when he finished 3 spots higher. Rankings can shift quickly depending on development and performance across the system, but the belief in his long-term potential has not changed. The Yankees still see him as a player who could make a real impact at the major league level once everything comes together. Jones himself has shown a mature understanding of the situation. Instead of expressing frustration about the move, he acknowledged that being sent back to the minors was always a realistic possibility. From his perspective, the bigger picture matters more. The Yankees are building a roster designed to compete for a championship, and every decision is made with that goal in mind. That mindset speaks volumes about the culture the organization tries to build with its young players. The message is clear. Opportunities will come, but they have to be earned at the right moment. If Jones continues to develop the way the team expects, the door to the Bronx will open eventually, and when it does, he will be much more prepared to stay there for good. Now, shifting our attention from the outfield to the pitching side, The other prospect involved in this roster move is generating plenty of excitement as well. Elmer Rodriguez has been climbing rapidly through the Yankee system and is now considered one of the most promising arms in their pipeline. His rise over the past year has been impossible to ignore. Rodriguez currently ranks as the third best prospect in the organization, which represents a significant jump from the 8th spot he held previously. That kind of leap usually happens when a pitcher begins to show not just raw talent, but the ability to translate that talent into consistent results on the mound. During his appearances this spring, Rodriguez gave the Yankees a glimpse of exactly why his stock is rising so quickly. His fastball touched 97 miles per hour on the radar gun, a number that immediately catches the attention of scouts and coaches. Velocity alone does not guarantee success, but when it is combined with effective secondary pitches and solid command, it becomes a dangerous weapon. Rodriguez also displayed a sharp changeup that created problems for hitters, adding another layer to his developing arsenal. In 2 spring starts, he threw a total of 6 innings and allowed just 2 runs while striking out 5 batters and issuing only 1 walk. Those numbers might seem modest at first glance, but for a young pitcher facing advanced competition, the performance reinforced the idea that he is progressing in the right direction and getting closer to being ready for bigger challenges. What makes the situation around Elmer Rodriguez even more interesting is that his development is not happening quietly behind the scenes anymore. People inside the organization are paying very close attention to how quickly he is evolving, and many believe he could become an important piece of the Yankees' pitching depth sooner rather than later. For now, however, the plan is clear. Once his current international commitments are finished, he will begin the season in Triple-A, continuing to sharpen his mechanics and build the kind of consistency required to succeed in the major leagues. And that is where the bigger picture starts to come into focus. The Yankees may have sent Rodriguez down for now, but that does not mean he is far away from the Bronx. In fact, the team knows that throughout a long baseball season, pitching depth becomes one of the most valuable assets any contender can have. Injuries, fatigue, and unexpected struggles can quickly create openings in the rotation, and when that moment arrives, the Yankees want to have talented arms ready to step in immediately. Rodriguez will be part of that group, waiting for an opportunity. He is expected to compete alongside several other young pitchers in the organization who are also pushing for a chance at the big league level. Names like Will Warren, Luis Gil, Ryan Weathers, and Carlos Lagrange are all in that conversation, and each one of them knows that strong performances early in the season could dramatically change their trajectory. This internal competition is not a negative thing for the Yankees. On the contrary, it creates an environment where every pitcher understands that nothing is guaranteed. Every inning thrown matters. Every start becomes an audition. And for a young pitcher trying to prove he belongs in the majors, that kind of pressure can actually accelerate development. While the prospect movement grabbed plenty of attention, another major storyline surrounding the Yankees' pitching staff is beginning to shift in a very positive direction. After months of uncertainty and careful rehabilitation, one of the team's most important starters is finally making meaningful progress toward returning to game action. Carlos Rodon recently reached a major milestone in his recovery process. The left-handed veteran threw a full inning of live batting practice just before a spring training game against Pittsburgh, marking the first time he has faced real hitters since undergoing surgery during the offseason. For the Yankees coaching staff and the entire fan base, that moment represented a huge step forward. Recovering from any surgical procedure requires patience, especially when it involves a pitcher's throwing arm. Rodon had to undergo a procedure to remove loose bodies and address a bone spur, a situation that required careful management throughout the winter months. The medical staff wanted to ensure that every stage of the recovery process was handled properly before allowing him to push his arm back into competitive situations. Now, seeing him stand on the mound again and deliver pitches against live hitters is a sign that things are moving exactly in the direction the Yankees hoped for. If everything continues progressing without setbacks, the expectation is that Rodon could return to the rotation sometime in early May. That timeline is incredibly encouraging when you remember just how important Rodon was for the Yankees not long ago. During the previous season, he delivered one of the most effective campaigns of his career. Over the course of 33 starts, he posted an earned run average of 3.09 while maintaining an impressive walks and hits per inning pitched of 1.05. Perhaps even more impressive was his ability to consistently give the Yankees a chance to win. Rodon finished that season with 18 victories, the highest total he had achieved in his professional career. Those numbers reflect not only his skill on the mound, but also the level of reliability he brought to the rotation every fifth day. When a pitcher like that is unavailable, the ripple effect can be felt across the entire staff. Other pitchers are forced to take on larger workloads. Young arms may be pushed into roles earlier than expected, and the overall stability of the rotation becomes more fragile. That is why the news of Rodon progressing toward a return carries such enormous significance. However, his impending comeback also creates an intense situation for the pitchers currently trying to secure a spot in the starting rotation. Right now, several arms are battling to prove they deserve a place among the starters when the season begins. But everyone involved understands that the picture will change once Rodon and another key figure are fully healthy. Gerrit Cole, the ace of the staff, is also working his way back from injury. When both Rodon and Cole eventually return to full strength, 2 rotation spots will essentially be locked in without question. That reality means the current competition for starting roles becomes even more intense. Looking at the projected rotation landscape, a few pitchers already appear to have strong positions. Max Fried is expected to play a major role, and Kim Schlittler has also impressed enough to place himself firmly in the conversation for a prominent spot. Once Rodon and Cole are added back into the mix, the number of available openings becomes extremely limited. For the remaining pitchers, that means every outing during spring training and the early weeks of the season becomes incredibly important. One strong stretch could secure a place in the rotation, while a few rough performances might push someone back into a bullpen role or even down to the minors. That competitive atmosphere extends beyond the experienced pitchers as well. Several young prospects are watching this situation closely because any shift in the rotation could create the exact opportunity they have been waiting for. Players like Carlos Lagrange and Elmer Rodriguez know that injuries, performance swings, or scheduling demands could open a door at any moment. But before we continue, please remember to join our channel and give this video a like. Your support allows us to keep bringing you the latest news about the New York Yankees. Feel free to share your thoughts on the news in the comments. A quiet buzz has begun to circulate around the farm system of the New York Yankees, and it is growing louder with every conversation among scouts, analysts, and especially fans. The name at the center of the speculation is Carlos Lagrange, a young pitcher whose arm is already inspiring bold predictions across baseball circles. Inside the Yankees community, whispers suggest the organization may be sitting on something special. Lagrange's fastball, described by some observers as explosive and unusually lively, has reportedly caught the attention of coaches and talent evaluators who see shades of elite power pitchers in his delivery. While the club remains publicly cautious about hyping prospects too early, the excitement surrounding the right-hander continues to build behind the scenes. Among supporters of the Bronx franchise, the narrative has taken on a life of its own. On fan forums and social media discussions, Lagrange is increasingly described as the next great arm to rise through the system. Some voices even argue that he could become the most electrifying pitching prospect the Yankees have developed in years. That kind of praise may be premature, but it reflects how quickly the young pitcher has captured imaginations. Part of the intrigue lies in the mystery. Lagrange is still carving his path, and much about his long-term ceiling remains uncertain. Yet scouts who have followed his development hint that his combination of velocity, confidence, and mound presence gives him a rare foundation. Those traits often separate intriguing prospects from future stars. Within the Yankees organization, patience remains the official message. Development takes time, and expectations can become burdens for young players. Still, the energy surrounding Lagrange continues to grow. fueled largely by fans who believe they are witnessing the early chapters of something remarkable. Whether the hype proves justified is a question that only time will answer. For now, though, one thing seems clear. In the eyes of the Yankees faithful, Carlos Lagrange is already emerging as the crown jewel of the franchise's pitching future. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to keep receiving exclusive news about the New York Yankees, please subscribe to our channel and give us a like. We always appreciate your comments and opinions. See you in the next video.